Right, we're back. We're with the whiteboard, so you know this is going to be a serious fucking video. Let's jump into this. Insurance companies, imagine this. You've just found yourself a new reliable lead source. Maybe you're working with an agency doing some marketing. Maybe you're working with a lead provider. Maybe you've got some consistent referral base from a network that you're with. Whichever that is, you're thinking to your head, wow, look at all this money we can be making now. We have a consistent, reliable lead source. You actually do a few of these calls yourself just to test the water, and you're getting a really good response from it. You're speaking to individuals, they're engaged, they're ready to move forward, and you're thinking, wow, this is going to be absolutely massive. So you pass this over to your advisors, your sales team, for them to work the leads. And the response that you're getting is, well, no one's picking up the phone. I'm calling them and no one's answering. I'm sending emails and no one's getting back to me. We're sending text messages and we're just getting ghosted. And then you think to yourself, well, okay, well, the lead source now gone cold. It's a terrible lead source. So you're messaging everyone, you're sacking off your lead provider, you're getting rid of your marketing teams, and you're saying, we need to fix this lead problem. We're getting a lead quality problem. No one wants to pick up the phone and buy from us. What if I told you that that wasn't actually the problem, but that's the problem that you're seeing, but it's not the problem that's causing the result? What we're going to discuss in this video right now is contact rates and how to have consistent contact rates with any lead source that you're working at the moment. So in this video, I'm not going to talk about the actual practical things that you have to do to get hold of that individual, but we're going to talk about why the things that you're doing right now are not working. If you haven't got a reliable way to contact people and you don't have a reliable method on how to have high consistent contact rates in the first place, then that's going to be the second link in the description. I'll add in for one of our internal resources. Just add in your email address, I'll ping it over to you. If you're interested in getting more leads, more customers for your insurance business, that's going to be the first link in this description. So we've worked with an abundance of insurance brokers, insurance companies across life insurance, health insurance, travel insurance, home insurance, car insurance, fleet insurance, van insurance, courier insurance, and a handful of other things as well. And this is the same consistent problem that we see over and over and over again. It's not a lead quality problem. It's not a platform of where you're getting these leads from. It purely comes down to the consistent action. So let me explain. So for example, let's just say, and you'd be surprised the amount of companies that don't have this. So if you don't have this, it's your problem in the first place. But let's just say for every lead that comes through, you do 6 things. And what I mean by that is touch points. So let's just say you call them, you send them a voicemail, you then send them an email, you then go round their house, knock on their door, you then go to their child's school and you sit outside the school waiting for them to turn up. Whatever one it is, right, you're doing. Let's just say there's 6 consistent actions that happen. Well, every single lead that comes through, you would think would have to go through this same, call it, same funnel, okay? So let's just say this is the consistency. Now, this is what it should look like, okay? Now, the problem being is a lot of companies we work with, it doesn't look like that. So imagine this. Imagine that the lead comes through and for the first one, you do all 6. So let's just say these 6 touch points, let's just say that has a 50% contact rate. Okay, let's just say you've tested this. Once you do consistently over a large enough sample size, you do all these 6 touch points and you have a 50% contact rate. Now, the issue lies where you do, for example, let's just say you've got 50% contact rate. So this is an advisor. Let's just say you've given this system to an advisor, number 1, to your sales staff, and let's just say they're doing all 60 actions, okay? And they're getting a 50% contact rate. Now, this is where the problem lies, because to have consistency of a 50% contact rate over and over and over again across the whole sales department is that effectively everybody needs to be doing the same thing in the same way, in the same amount of times, in the same format. Okay, so let's just say that's sales team number 1, sales team number 2, and sales individual number 4. So collectively, if everybody is doing all of these things, all 6 touch points the same, you will have a collective contact rate of 50%. Okay. Now, the issue lies within the contact rate isn't because you don't have a provable system. It's where if you really get to the granular details, the team aren't doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so for example, let's just say this individual decides to just do 2, avoid this one, avoid this one. Okay, he says that he's contacting them. He says he's sending the emails, but maybe one lead comes through. He sees that it's from a certain lead provider that he doesn't really have a good response with. So maybe he doesn't do the email. Maybe he doesn't do the voicemail correctly. He calls it, but he calls it 30 minutes later than he's supposed to do, for example. And his contact rate's probably down near, 10%. Okay. This individual over here, let's just say, they're doing a better job, but there's a few that leak through the crack, right? He's on lunch break. He's decided that, he needs to have a quick fag break, and there's just not so much intent behind this. And then this individual here, let's just say, they're still doing a good job, but they're not doing everything they need to be doing. They've missed a few. They've sort of forgot, you've got it written down in a checklist, but it hasn't been checked in, 2-3 months. They think they're doing the right things, but if you really actually audited what they were doing, they were kind of doing exactly what they're supposed to do, right? So let's just say this was like a 37%. So if everyone's doing exactly the same thing in the right format, in a checklist format, in the same way, the same time, and that has consistency of having 50%, you would think if you give that same process to someone, if they don't do it correctly, it doesn't impact it that much. Well, actually, the total amount right now, collectively, if you add all of these up and divide it by 4, is 31.75%. So 31.75%. And this is still within somebody doing the 50%. This is still someone running 37%. A lot of the time, once you give this system to an individual and you let them go away with it and add their own spin to it, and you're not correctly auditing, making sure they have checklists and doing the right thing, what you'll find is a lot of individuals are actually probably closer to doing 20% of the things that they're supposed to do, so their contact rates are such affected. This is the reason why, if you're taking these leads yourself and you're having a good response from them and you hand them off to people and they're not getting the same response, it's purely because they're not doing the exact same format. So what you need to be doing correctly here is, 1, outlining exactly the step-by-step process that you're doing. So how do you take an individual from here to here? What are the necessary steps that you need to be doing with every single lead that comes through? What is the step 1, the step 2, the step 3? What happens when you call them? What happens if you don't pick up? What happens if you leave a voicemail and it doesn't get listened to? What happens if you send an email and doesn't get replied to? What happens if they respond on email but not over telephone? You need to outline exactly every single step of the way. You need to be able to prove that yourself, so prove that it works, and then off the back of that, have that in a checklist SOP. So every single lead that comes through, you have an individual that can outline specifically the processes to go through. This is how you have consistent contact rates. It's not by having a better lead source, because they're all the same. Doesn't matter where the leads are coming from. You can only there's only a small format of outreach. You can do cold outreach, which is usually going to be cold calls, emails, messages on like LinkedIn, WhatsApp, that type of thing. This is going to be cold outreach. You can do warm outreach, but effectively it's the same thing. It's people who have already previously engaged with you. It's harder. It's not scalable because your chances are you have the smaller list. You can do ads, so you can run Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Pinterest ads, Twitter ads, whatever you want. And you can also do content. So this is going to be your organic posting on YouTube, like this video you're watching now, or, adding reels, TikTok, that type of thing. That's really the only type of things you can do to be able to acquire business, and obviously work your other ones, referrals, work with some sort of database. So the leads themselves, they're all going to be relatively the same, because there's not many ways that you can actually generate leads. So the consistency within contact rates come from being able to replicate this exact process over and over and over again, because you're never going to improve your contact rates if the consistency in the system that you're trying to replicate is not being worked, because you don't know the optimizations to make. So for example, let's just say you're doing 50%, you want to get to 55%, but over 500 leads you've done pinpoint exactly the same thing over and over and over again, then you know that you can just make a few small changes on something to see if that positively or negatively affects the contact rate. The issue being, you can't make any changes if somebody's doing 50% of it, someone is doing 90% of it, the other person's doing 20% of it, and the other person thinks they're doing it, but realistically they're probably doing 0% of it. So there has to be consistency within that. It's the only way you're going to have to see consistency in your contact rates. It's the biggest problem that I see working with so many different insurance businesses where they have a new lead source come in and they have issues within their contact rates, not because of where the leads come from and how it's been attracted. It's purely because the system that they're trying to implement for them is not the right approach and it doesn't have any consistency. You'd be surprised the amount of firms that don't even have a consistent outreach, call it a protocol. Okay, they just basically say, well, we'll call them, send a few emails, and we'll just sort of, hope the person, comes back to us, they reply, they message us, something like that. A lot of people just sit on their hands and think, well, leads come in now, we don't got to do anything. We'll just wait until they call us and give us the credit card details. It's not the reality of running ads. It's not the reality of really any type of inbound system. The only type of stuff that works for is referrals. Someone said, give them a call, they're good. But realistically, how many of them are you getting every single day? So that is a video on improving your contact rates. If you want more leads, more policy sales, this can be the first link in the description. Run an agency called Grow My Insurance where we help insurance companies get more leads, more customers. If you don't have an actual specific outreach method right now, then I've added a resource below. You can add your email in and I'll ping it over to you, and it's an approach that we give to our clients on how to correctly outreach individuals. Feel free to drop me a follow, like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn, that's in the description as well. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop a comment or a message directly. Cool, appreciate it.